The podcast.
Shout out to Rockhound Detroit Lions, man.
There
One
you
pride.
The group we assembled to undertake the search for these two important positions ultimately resulted in a thorough, comprehensive process that led us to two great people.
Brad Holmes has agreed to become the next general manager of the Detroit Lions.
One pride, let's go. We will build a winning and inspired culture to serve the best football product to this great city of Detroit so we can compete for championships on a consistent basis.
The Lions coaching search has come to an end.
The team officially announcing Dan Campbell as its new head coach.
This team is going to take on the identity of this city. Man, these guys are going to fight, and they're going to be something this city's proud of.
If you're a Detroit Lions fan, I think you are excited about the possibilities.
What they want is continuity between Dan Campbell and his coaching staff and Brad Holmes.
Think about the staff right now that the former NFL blocking tight end Dan Campbell is putting together. Deuce Staley, longtime Eagles player, to the Detroit Lions where he'll become assistant head coach.
Former Saints defensive backs coach Aaron Glenn.
Anthony Lynn, former NFL running back as his offensive coordinator.
Getting to know the staff, they're great coaches, there's no doubt, but I'd say even better human beings.
We've added the right men to help coach these guys. I feel like these are men that are convicted in what they believe. They know how to coach. We feel pretty good about where we're at. We feel like we're right on track. It's gone exactly the way that we felt like it should go with the vision that Brad and I both had, which obviously started with Sheila. She wanted teamwork at the top. We've done just that. I know people love coming into work. You bring in people that are very like-minded just in regards to teamwork and positivity and hard work, all those things. Man, I feel like we're right on track. The majority of these guys that have been brought in, they understand what it's supposed to look like, how it's supposed to look. They understand how to communicate with players. They understand the X's and O's. And a lot of them understand the locker room because they've been in the locker room. These guys, it's funny because I go down there in the hall and I can hear laughter down the hall and I can hear them kind of cutting up a little bit, having a good time. And then you'll go down about 5 minutes later and guys are grinding, and then you go down 30 minutes later and man, they're in their meeting rooms and they're working together and they're getting after it. So it's a good mix of the personalities. They're all hard workers, but man, they're all team guys too. The mesh, the chemistry of the staff has been outstanding. It's been everything that I hoped it would be. And I know there's this emphasis on the ex-player as a coach, and there's a significant amount of those guys that I've added, but I don't want us to lose sight of the ones that aren't NFL players like Todd Walsh and Ben Johnson and Aubrey Pleasant. I mean, these guys are outstanding coaches. No different than those players. They understand first how to communicate with a player. They understand how to get to know the person first, what makes them tick. So it's a number of reasons why I added those or kept who we kept here. And I just think that if you don't know how to get to know the person first to where they begin to trust you, the X's and O's and fundamentals don't mean anything. They just don't. So we've added those type of guys or kept those guys that were here before because I know who they are and what they're about. And it's been, like I said, they've all been excellent additions. I'm excited to be here. I love the 150, but I really, really love the 250. So I like both of them. I'm a truck guy. I like a Raptor.
We're gonna go upstairs to the executive conference room. We have some employees.
Okay. Yeah.
Spend a couple minutes saying hello before you come in. I introduce a special guest.
Oh, they don't know oh, okay, I got you.
I mean, some people know, but they don't know.
Yeah, I got you. They just think that we're bringing a camera in there. That's what they think.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody does, and I'm not saying this because I've got eyes on me. It's because I think nobody does a truck better than Ford, man. I think the F-150s, I mean, they're top notch.
I'm into leadership. How do you see that being an ex-player and now you're a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, you think about it from the perspective of when you were there, right? So when I was here, what worked for me? Who could push me and why could they push me and how did they push buttons without making me snap? And so how do you build that relationship to where they trust you and they believe in you before you ever even get to the nuts and bolts of technique, scheme, all those things? Why don't you build your own relationship with the kid or with the person, the man?
So today, man, talking about Dan Campbell and the monster that he's kind of built in Detroit. And when I mean monster, it's a collective of things, right? It's the coaching staff, it's the players, it's the identity. And let's not forget that Brad Holmes is obviously a big part of this. But I just wanted to recap a little bit of the beginning of this Inside the Den. This is from 2021, so this is one of the very first Inside the Dens. Actually, it was episode 1 of their first season. And Brad immediately says what? He says, we're going to build a winning and inspired culture. You know, that they're going to win many, many championships, right? Talking about building sustainability is a big part of what he talks about. Dan Campbell, you know, the team's going to take on the identity of this city, you know, the blue collar, the hardworking blue collar, bring your lunch pail to work kind of guys, right? That's what Dan Campbell's all about. Did he lie? No. Did Brad Holmes lie? No, he didn't. Did they tell us the honest to God truth that what they were going to build and how they were going to go about it was exactly what they've done today, now entering their 5th season? This Detroit Lions team is no different than where it started, other than the fact that we've got a lot of different personnel, we've got a lot of different coaches, but the team identity and the culture that they were setting to make an example of, I guess, in that first season is exactly what they've continued with. And that's what I mean by it's no different than today than what it was 5 years ago. The team's much different, right? Much, much different. We lost a lot of games in 2021. Rap Sheet, you heard Rap Sheet there for a moment, talks about continuity and how important it is to have continuity with the coaching staff. And look, I'm not scared one bit about the monster that Dan Campbell has built, and now that level of, man, I've got to live up to what I just did last year, and I've got to live up to what we did 2 seasons ago. But we've got to go further. I'm not worried about it. Dan also said that we had added the right men, that it felt good, that they were right on track. Talking about the coaching staff, and I don't know how many of you felt that back in 2021. I'm just going to guess that not a lot of people had a lot of confidence in where this team was going, what was going to happen next, because we're bringing in a coach that, you know, had some interim opportunities, but that's about it, right? Doesn't have a long history of coaching. You know, he was a player in Detroit. He was a player for, 12 seasons or whatever it was in the NFL. And we're going to entrust this guy to come and turn around a franchise. It just seems like every year that the Lions change a coach, over the 40-plus seasons that I've been watching the team, since Wayne Fontes, we have never really had a coach, other than Jim Caldwell, that lasted more than 3.5 seasons. Probably 3 on average. And the type of coaches that we were getting in didn't have a ton of experience, or just not the type of coaches that I think we needed at that time that we were in. And especially the general manager position was just, it was just always a mess. So anyway, this morning is talking about Dan Campbell's monster, right? He's built a monster in Detroit, and it's a good thing. He's built a system now that he has to maintain. He's built a coaching tree. He's built a roster. We've got some other things that we'll talk about once we get through Inside the Den. We got Peterson's punch out. We got Jahmyr Gibbs' bet, which we've talked about already in the past. We'll highlight it again. And then what are the most important tasks for this Lions defense? What do they need to do this season to make sure that there is no drop-off from last season, but that they rise above it? And then roster development. So we have a pretty crazy spreadsheet to go through, talking about, is it homegrown or is it not homegrown? Are we building within or are we pulling from outside sources? It's a really, really, really good spreadsheet that we are going to get into this morning. So good morning to the mods. Obviously, the members that are in the house today: Jay Cruzen, Trace, Michael Garrity, Warner U of M Dad, Jay Cruzen, I think I already said, Zachary Cleary, Robbie Ones, Mr. Thomas, Derek Lewis. So anyway, good morning to everybody. And let's get back into the video. And then we're going to have a really great discussion this morning on what's going to happen here in Detroit.
And first, and then let's get to the other stuff. Because usually you can kind of get what you want out of the player if they believe you and they trust you.
So I want to introduce the new head coach for the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell. Everybody welcome.
Good to see you guys, man, and gals.
That's for you, Coach.
I appreciate that. This is a unique place, and anybody who's an outsider that looks outside in, the first thing they think about is what you shouldn't about Detroit, because they don't know. They don't know shit about it. And so adversity is just a word. That's all it is. It's not something that holds you back. It's not something that keeps you from doing what you want to do. Well, that to me, that's this community, you know, and this is a place you want to raise kids. It's a place that, man, if we can ever create a winner, which is the whole idea, that's why I'm here. Excuse my language, f the weather, all right? You'll want to be here. You'll want to be here, all right? Because I'm serious, man. Everybody's South Florida, and you go to Texas and LA, you know. But I'm telling you right now, man, you build a winner here, people want to be here. Hell, my first game here in 06, we're playing Seattle, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it's like you couldn't hear. That's on us to make it to where our fans will want to yell, and they do want to be a part of it. And so I get that, man. And I know we're in this all-talk phase, all right? But, man, I will do everything in my power, and so will my staff, who, by the way, is a kick-ass staff. I believe in these guys with everything in my heart. We will get these guys to, well, they will fight their ass off to the end. I know that. And we will try to put ourselves in the very best position to freaking win at the end of a game. That's the idea. Now, if we have a pin, here's what I'd love to do is I'd love every one of you guys to sign this for me. Just sign your name to this. I'm going to put this in my office because this is a reminder to me. All right, I'm sorry. Name one more time.
Hot Rod.
Hot Rod.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you very
man.
much.
Yeah, you bet. This gentleman right here, like, where is his area from?
So normally they have an 18-foot workspace.
Yeah.
He has his own computer, and there's a virtual workspace. And if he gets out of his virtual workspace, and then the line will stop.
Got it.
And that's how you keep quality at the workstation.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's one of our team leaders.
What's going on, man? I'm Dan. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Yeah.
Good to have you here.
Now I'm fired up.
Hopefully you're going to make winners out of us like we're winners here.
We're going to try to.
I like that. I like that. Like we're winners here.
Good.
All right.
That's the idea, my friend.
All right. Enjoy yourself here.
Man, appreciate you. Have a good one.
You want to talk about a job where you can sit down all day?
Yeah.
We have that too out here.
Well, I wouldn't want to do that. That's me, but I get it. He's moving though. You know,
Oh,
he
yeah.
can move his feet. It's not like he's sitting. He can.
Yeah, so he can move, he can do that.
Look at that.
Because ergonomically, this is the best position. So we call this the happy seat.
Yeah. I need one of these. Just that's what I'll coach in this year. Are they allowed, the workers, to, like, can they listen to music? Is that
only have one earbud.
Got it.
One earbud.
Yeah. Need to be able to listen if something comes up, but at least we're giving you one here. I got it.
The team wants you to drive F-150 off the line.
Okay.
Drop it off.
Yeah, I can do that.
So
well, maybe I'll just keep going with it. I'll bring it back.
Step in, coach. So it's the first time it's ever been started. Yeah. So we're going to come up and then make a right. Just follow him.
All right, am I going?
Yep.
Am I ready?
Yep.
Right off, man. This thing's fresh. Fresh off the line. Man, this thing's pretty sharp. By the way, I love the hood. That's pretty cool. I love it, man. Gotta get you one of these. It's awesome. First time the thing's been started, driven right off the line. I've never done that, so that was pretty awesome. I enjoyed it. This dude needs to be playing for us. What the heck are you doing over here?
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm Courtney. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Come on, Courtney. Oh, get right here. Hell, you get between us. There you go. All right.
I need some wins, man.
No, I hear you.
Not hard life,
All right, well, maybe if you'll come over to camp, maybe we'll win some games, man.
I'll roll with y'all a little bit.
All right, Corey's going to get mad that I'm over here recruiting you. All right, get out of here. Have a good one. See you, Courtney. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I love your attitude, man. This town's needed something like that. You know, speak from your heart, man. Let it out.
Sanitize.
I see one up there. I appreciate it.
All right, I think this is a good area to pause at. I just wanted to review a few of the things that Dan is talking about. Man, what are the parodies here? You know, the parodies between building a Detroit Lions team and building a Ford truck, right? I mean, you see the parodies, right? Everything has to be on time. Every 53 seconds, something is rolling off the line. You have to have your parts, you know, right there for you. And I could probably come up with 100 different ways that this could fit to a football team. My question to you guys, you know, in the chat and in the comments below, how many of you work, you know, for Ford or for GM, you know, around the city of Detroit? There's so many different plants everywhere. I'd be interested to know in how many of you actually work for the Ford family in one of the plants, which from what I've heard is an amazing place to work for. My uncle was, he was one of the lawyers for GM. And so he was in the Rensen for most of his career, traveled across the world. So on the other side of the pond, I guess you will, but it's just amazing to hear the stories. So let me wind back. He says, if we could ever create a winner in Detroit, that's what I'm here to do. This is 2021. And I really loved how he said, you know, that we're in the all talk phase, right? And that's what we hear every time we get a coach in Detroit or anywhere else, really. It's the all talk phase. I get exactly what he's saying here. You've heard this before. It's coach speak. It's, you know, we're going to do this and we're pounding our fist and promise we're going to bring you a winner. And this is, you know, this is what we have to do. And it sounds super simple to turn this franchise around. You know, I expect X, Y, and Z. And then you get out in week 1 and you lay a goose egg, right? And so we did. I mean, nothing really changed. We didn't win any football games, really. 3-13-1 in 2021. Everyone's going back to, you know, Inside the Den episode 1 and saying, you're damn straight. It was all talk, Dan. What the hell, man? Like, I thought you were here to build a winner. And that even followed through in 2022. You know, where you go, 1-6, and Sheila comes and addresses the fan base and says, look, we're going to stick to the plan. We've got a process. We got to stick to the process. I promise you we'll turn it around. We finished that season, what were we, 8-2? I think finishing that season 8-2. And at that point, you could tell that the tide has shifted, right? It was a different tide that was rolling in and out of Detroit at that point. How the heck did Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes turn this team around in 18 games? About 24, 25 games, I guess. 24. He turned this team around. And I think, again, the parodies to building a car, you know, building a truck, doing your job when you're on an assembly line, it's no different to building the monster that we have in Detroit now, which is a good and a bad problem. It's a good problem because we love to win football games finally, right? We have a lot of inspiration each and every season as we gear up for week 1, which is like less than 12 weeks away, and we're expecting to get a win, right? Traveling, where are we going? We're going to the Packers, I think, week 1. Expecting to get a win. That's not how we felt 5 years ago. We expected to walk into wherever we were going and getting a big L. Not anymore. So it's a monster that has, you know, two faces to it. It's got the good side and the bad side. The bad side is now you're losing coaches because you're so good. You're losing assistants because you're so good. You're going to lose some players because you're so good, right? There's going to be teams that want what you have on your team. You're going to lose players because you can't pay them all. We've talked about that. I mean, we've kicked every horse while they're down speaking about that topic. What else did Dan say? Dan says that he believed in his team, that they're going to work their ass off. I mean, have we seen anything less? Have we seen anything less in Detroit? This has been a team that has been, I mean, from snap to whistle, they just don't stop. And it all starts with this man right here. Here's the other thing I'm going to ask you guys. How different does Dan look? You know, just about 4.5 years ago. How different he looks. He looks a lot younger. He actually looks a little thinner back then. He looks bigger now than he did back then. Bigger, you know, more muscular now than he did back then. He's always been a big dude. But he looks a lot younger. I would say that he's aged very well. I think Dan's looking good at his age. You can definitely see how the stress of managing a team and what that does. It's almost like being, I'm not even going to say it because I think that's a bad subject. But anyway, I talked about the parity of building a car to a team. And again, I'll just go to, everyone's got to be in the right spot. And even the guy here, the floor manager, I think is who that is. And I don't know his name. I don't even know if he's a floor manager, but we'll just call him the floor manager. The guy that's walking Dan around. He made the assimilation to, every guy on the team has to do their job. Same thing on the line. Every person has to do their job. One nut, one bolt's loose, and that truck rolls off a line, and a customer gets into it, and that tire comes flying off and goes down the road. That's a big problem, right? It's a big lawsuit for Ford, which obviously they don't want to have happen. Bit more at stake with building a car than playing football. But if you got one guy, I always talk about the offensive line being a chain link, a chain. You break that center chain, and now everybody's kind of just off in their own island. It's not how you want it to be. You want everybody working together. So there's so many different parodies we could put together. I really enjoyed Dan's comment when they were looking at the guy that they call Happy Feet that's kind of zipping around underneath the truck, in that chair. And he says he wanted one of those. For whatever reason, it made me think of the Patricia four-wheeler. I could never see Dan zipping around on a four-wheeler or anything like that. But to see him in a chair, like that would be kind of funny, right? If the chair would kind of float around, he'd be zipping in and out, kind of like a movie set. I don't know, man. It'd be kind of funny, I guess. So anyway, let's keep it rolling. It's only a few minutes left, about 5, and then we'll get into the rest of today's show. So get right back into it here.
Appreciate that. Thank you for that. Well, man, this has been outstanding.
Hey, absolutely.
I appreciate it very much, man.
Hey, if you guys need anything for real,
yeah,
let us know.
Yeah, we will.
We're right around the corner. Appreciate
Thank you much.
Hey, God bless.
Yeah, you too. Thank you very much.
Have a great one.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, man. It's a pleasure to meet and see all of you.
Breaking news, and it is monster news. A blockbuster trade in the NFL. Detroit is dealing Matthew Stafford to the LA Rams in exchange for 2 future first-round picks, a third-round pick, and Jared Goff. These are 2 former #1 overall picks trading places in an absolutely blockbuster trade.
To be able to add Jared Goff, first of all, I love his calm demeanor, and the fact, though, there's this confidence about him. You need a guy who can command the huddle and can get you in the right place, but man, when everything's flying, all the bullets are flying, man, can that guy calm the storm for you? Can he settle everything down and just center you? Can he center the team? And that's what Goff can do.
Yeah, I just have always been that way. I think it is part of being a quarterback, but I think it's just my disposition is to try to remain calm when things aren't, and try to be that steady rock for everybody. And through my career, I've done a pretty good job of that.
He's pretty steady, and that's one of the things that I really liked about him. First meeting him, I realized how he was never too high, never too low, and I think that's, just having that stability is so important. He does an incredible job of that. It's not easy. I'm the opposite probably, so it's really nice to know that.
You can't emphasize enough importance on the fact this guy is a winner. He's won in this league, and there is something to be said for a winner in this league at that position. That's what this guy's done.
Very excited. I think that's one of the most attractive things about this whole thing is Dan, Aylin, Brunel, all these guys that I've been able to talk with and hear from. It's been a lot of fun. What's up, man?
Good to see you, bro.
How are you?
Yeah, good, man. Yeah, really good, man.
Good, yeah.
What up, baby?
What's up, man? How are you?
Yeah.
How's it going?
How's it going? We got you, baby. What's
good, man. Good, man. I'm excited.
We'll get this thing cranked up.
Good. Let's do it, man. I'm excited we got you.
Oh, yeah. We good, man.
You still got that thing still loose? You still throw it a little bit?
Still throw a little bit. I threw it all last year.
Yeah. What's up, man? How are you?
How you doing, man?
Good to see you.
Glad to have you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
glad to be here.
Excited around here.
Me too. Yeah. Getting a chance to put my fingerprint in some ways on a new staff and a new system, and working through all that has really been cool for me, and that's kind of been that next step of my football career is taking that next step of ownership and really having, like I mentioned, my fingerprint on some things.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yep.
Awesome.
How you doing, brother? Finally got it done.
Brad and Ray were obviously there when I was drafted, and had been there through my entire career, and had a good time seeing them. Ray, we saw quite a bit. He was always walking around, and glad to have some familiar faces out here for sure. I think it's the city. I think it's the people. It's a different place than most people understand. I think the city's heartbeat and the city's perseverance and who these people are is something that I really am excited to play for and to win for.
It's a pleasure.
Good. Pleasure to meet you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
I really like playing for Coach Campbell.
I can't wait, man. It's going to be great.
Let me tell you, he's
special, huh?
Yeah, he really is.
Good. Oh, look at that. Nice. That's awesome. Love it. Very cool. Honolulu Blue.
Can't tell you how excited we are to welcome Jared to the Lions family. He's a proven winner. His resume speaks for itself. He's won a lot of games.
There's three things that I think about with Jared Goff. He's tough, he's durable, and most importantly, he's a winner. He has won in this league. I love his quiet confidence. I know he's hungry. Man, we were thrilled to have this guy. So without further ado, Jared Goff.
You know, I didn't know much about Detroit until recently, and being down there and seeing, you know, it is a sports town, and being able to play in a sports town is special. You know, it's something that I'm excited about, and I know football is king here, and I plan to make it a winner. I think it takes the right pieces to win, but it can happen in one offseason. It's going to take a lot of hard work, and that's the challenge that I think I'm most excited for, is bringing this team and bringing this city and bringing this culture back to what it should be. And I know it won't happen overnight. I know it won't happen in a week. It won't happen in a month, but it can happen very quickly.
Don't ever judge a day on the weather.
Okay, I had to pause it there because, well, number one, good morning, Cerebral Palsy Gamer did an interview with me the other day or for me, and I had a blast doing it. It's going to be dropping on his channel today. Do us all a favor, check him out and give him a subscribe and like the video if you would, please. I can't wait to see it. Edited version anyway to see what it looks like. Being a Packer fan, who knows, he could have thrown me under the bus. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's going to be great. So don't lie. None of you, don't lie. Right now, put it in the chat or in the comments later if you happen to watch this later. How many of you had any sort of confidence in Jared Goff? When you heard this trade was coming down, how many of you were like, oh no, what are they doing? We just lost Matthew Stafford. I bet you I know the answer. I would say probably more than 90% of you had zero confidence. For some reason, I must have been on my own island because I had confidence. And I've said this to you guys before. We could probably go all the way back to one of the first episodes that I've ever done, which are terrible. I don't recommend it. But I used to talk about it a lot in how I had confidence in Jared Goff because when I analyzed the stats, right, the analysis that I did, it was almost a mirror image to Matthew Stafford. And so if he could do that in LA, why couldn't he do that here in Detroit? He was going to need, some players, right? He had some players in LA. He was going to need a team around him. So how many of you had confidence that Jared was ever going to lead us, anywhere close to where we are now? The second thing, Jared talks about the city and perseverance, and that's what a lot of this city is about. The city of Detroit has been through a ton. I mean, hell, they just went through bankruptcy. What was it? 10 years ago? Something like that. And they've come back, and they've come back even stronger. I think that they've been led incredibly well. I mean, they went through a lot of stuff. It wasn't the mayor of Detroit, I think, was involved in quite a few things. If it was the mayor, I'm probably confusing it, but I thought he was in prison for something. So they went through a lot, right? They went through a ton of stuff. And to have a football team that is not winning, the Red Wings seem to be the only good team. The Pistons weren't winning. The Tigers were up and down. So it's just, we needed football to be back, right? At least to the heights that we've seen it at its greatest heights, which was few and far between. But now stringing, together a couple of good seasons, I think that we see where the future is going. And when I paused it, or at least when I said, look at the youthness of Goff, look how young he looks. Everyone has aged very well in Detroit. But I think that you see this level of maturity now on their faces. Like, I've been there, I've done it. I know where we're going. I know what we're going to do next. Here's probably one of the most important statements that I heard out of Jared Goff in this, and how it resonates today. he said, hard work, culture, it won't happen overnight. He said it won't, a week, a month, but it can happen very quickly. Was he not spot on? When you go back to, earlier in this show talking about what Dan Campbell was talking about and the foresight of what they are both seeing for this team in the future, it did happen very quickly. I don't know of another team that has scrapped everything, started over, traded away their best quarterback, the best player on the team at the time, and in 2 short seasons, they're winning football games. They have a winning record. They should have went to the playoffs in year 2. And now they've gone back-to-back NFC North championships, an NFC championship game that they lost, number 1 seed last season. I mean, these are things that just shouldn't happen, right? Not this quickly. So just a few minutes left. Actually, no. This is episode 4 that just got started. So let me get off of this real quick. I might want to review some of this, but we'll come back to it. So anyway, good morning to everybody that's just joining or has been around for a minute. What we're doing this morning is just kind of taking a look back at 2021 and the monster that Dan Campbell has built, because we are now in a situation that, this team has to continue winning, right? And this team is going to continue to lose big pieces year in and year out, I think. And it's not because they want to. It's just part of the process, right? You see good teams all the time losing, good pieces, whether it's a coach, whether it's a player, and it's a good thing. I think that the roster development is probably where I'm going to head next, because it segues into what, the very first season was all about. Dan Campbell said from the very beginning that he was, they're going to draft, they're going to develop their own, and then they're going to hopefully re-sign. But, Brad Holmes has said the same thing, but it's develop their own, right? It's not pulling from outside sources to build this culture. You need a couple of leaders, right? Alex Anzalone was one that they brought in early in the process, but they needed some leaders to help bridge the gap, so to speak. It's something that I've always talked about often, on how, bridging the gap is super important in the very beginning stages for this team. How do we lose football games but lose them gracefully? How do we lose football games but show that we're actually getting better? How do you bridge that gap to the fans? It is super hard to do. And I think that Dan Campbell did it in the best way possible, which was staying upbeat, which was showing his personal character, his personal feelings. I mean, you've seen him cry, at the end of during a press conference, which really showed that raw emotion and how connected he is to the team and the city and how important it is. And I think that is exactly how Dan Campbell bridged that gap to the fans. Like, look, man, I wanted to win too, and these guys are over here working their butts off, and we are so close. You've heard the speech, man, we're so close, man, we're so close. And then he talks about the luck and, needing to bounce the ball, or needing the ball to bounce just maybe 1 foot this way or 1 foot that way. There's a little bit of luck involved. But the main part of building this team and building this roster is just hard work. It's just hard work and getting the best out of your guys. So this next part I want to talk about is roster development. And when I came across this spreadsheet, which big shout out to OTC for doing this stuff. This is a breakdown of all 32 teams. And let me get this open. Sleepy Squirrel says, in the beginning, I had zero confidence in Goff. Where's your confidence level now, Sleepy? Where's your confidence now? Let's see. Mr. Thomas says, I saw Pittsburgh build a dynasty in about 5 years. And when Pittsburgh got Bradshaw. Man, are you dating yourself? Bradshaw, that's old school. Old school, old school. Let's see. Derek Lewis says, I was shocked we got Goff. I liked him in L.A. Nate was more excited about the draft picks. I think I was really excited about the draft picks, too. I thought that was the best way to kind of reset the deck, if you will. Robbie1 says, when we traded for him before year one, I said he was the bridge and will draft and groom a rookie. After year one, I said we have something here. Goff can manage this offense. That's a good statement. It's a good statement. You know, I forget that a lot of people thought that Jared Goff was a bridge. And there's a difference between bridging the gap to the fans, right? Bridging the gap meaning, you know, you're trying to get through something that's going to be really tough to get through, and you just got to find a level footing somewhere, right? A level footing to get to the other side of that bridge. Jennifer Steen says, I didn't care either way. I just had the please win mentality. Good statement too. King SJ says, at first I was part of the bridge quarterback mindset. Nick P, I didn't think Goff was terrible, but Stafford is a better quarterback than Goff. There's a good one. Nate M says, I was worried that the Rams broke him and didn't know if he could recover like a lot of other players can't. It's a good statement because he did rebound in a big way. Very big way. All right, let me get into this spreadsheet here. All right, let me slim this down. Try to make it bigger. I found this. I mean, I thought, honestly, when I was going to look at this, that we were going to have more than what we actually do. When you think of development, I guess before we really dive into this, and you think of homegrown versus external. Let me bounce out of this real quick. Now that we got that set. When you think of homegrown versus external football players, right? You're bringing guys in off the street. You're bringing guys in through free agency. You know, how do you think the Lions are set up? How many would put a 90-10 value, meaning we're 90% homegrown, 10% external? How many would do an 80-20 or a 70-30? I guess give me your guess on where you think the Lions are today. How many players are homegrown versus how many are external? I think that you're going to be blown away when you see this, because I'll tell you from my personal standpoint, I felt like this whole time that maybe we were closer to 80-20 or even 75-25, meaning during the draft, during free agency, during the draft, and then after the draft, the UDFAs and the players that we held over, I thought that we would have been closer by now, that you're developing the guys that you have and keeping those guys. But I think you're going to be shocked at where we actually are and what teams have more homegrown players on their roster today than the Detroit Lions do. It's insanity to me. All right, let me put this back up. Okay, so we're going to start top down here. The Ravens, 73-18. So they are 80.2% homegrown. Now, I haven't looked at their roster and looked at who they kept and who they didn't, but rosters by draft and round. They have 13 first rounders, 7 seconds, 9 thirds, 11 fourths, 3 fifths, 6 sixths. Say that twice. 4 seventh. Priority UDFAs, 35, and other UDFAs are 3. So priority UDFAs, this is not a new term, but I think it's relatively new to the fan base to understand what a priority UDFA is. Those are the guys that you're paying, some pretty big bucks for a signing bonus. $100,000, on a signing bonus for UDFA is kind of a lot of money. And I would say that if you're a priority UDFA, you're getting a pretty hefty chunk of change just to be on the team for camp and to see if you actually work out. To have 35 priority UDFAs, I think is a ton. The fact that the Bucs have 40 of them is crazy to me. But when you go and look at the Bucs, right, they got 8 first. Well, you can look at it. I'm not going to read it all off, but they have 11 second rounders right now playing. 7 thirds, which I think that's a considerable amount. The Jaguars have probably the most third rounders, which is 13, which I think also explains why they're not a very good football team, right? Not often do third rounders really make a big difference on a football team. And the Rams, this is crazy. They have 4 first-round draft picks on the team right now. 7 seconds, 6 thirds, 6 fourths. Check this, 11 fifths. How did they get so lucky at finding all of those 5th-round picks? You know what I really want to do? This might be just some off study time for me. How many of those 5th-round picks were taken when Brad Holmes was there? I'm curious at how many of them were taken. For them to have more 6th rounders than they do 1st, 3rd, and 4ths is crazy to me. The Bills have also done an excellent job later in the rounds when you look at what they've done. 12 seconds, 11 thirds, 11 fifths, 10 sixths. I mean, someone is identifying, the players that can, change your team. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because of a guy that we have on the team now by the name of Ahmed Hassanin, 6th round. I don't care that he's from the 6th round. I don't care if he's a UDFA, right? If you can play the game of football and you can play it at a high level, you're gonna find your way onto a football team, and you have to show that you can produce. I know we've had the conversation about Brodric Martin 100 times, but I wanna make sure that people understand. 3rd round picks often don't start right away, just like 4th and 5th and 6th and 7th don't either. They usually are players that you hope that will become a starter at some point, but less than 15% of 3rd round draft picks start in the NFL. You could imagine that number gets lower and lower and lower as you get from the 4th through the 7th round. It's almost non-existent in the 7th round, and it's less than 1% as a UDFA. So just think about that for a moment. When you see all of these, UDFAs right now on the team, it's largely because you have a lot of guys that are on the roster right now for camp, right? This is their camp roster. So I'm going to go right to the Lions now. Look at this. 55. Here we are, right? I'm going to put us kind of up towards the top. 55 right here. You probably can't see my cursor, but right here. 55 and 37. We have 11 first rounders. We have 8 seconds, 8 thirds, 6 fourths, 5 fifths, 8 sixths, 6 sevenths, 28 UDFAs. Check it. 12 priorities. 12 priorities. We are tied for the most priority UDFAs out of any team. And what's crazier to me than that number is the fact of how many have stuck on our roster year over year over year. Now, I failed you guys this morning because I didn't go and look at how many priority UDFAs we've actually kept since 2021. But I will tell you, I just know from experience with the roster, we've sprinkled in probably 2, 3, or 4 every year, it seems like, that somehow seem to find their way, at least into the practice squad, but sticking around on the roster throughout the season. 12 priority UDFAs, 28 UDFAs in total, but 11 first rounders. So we have, I think, the 3rd most. So the Ravens have the 2nd most. The Chargers have the 1st. Eagles have the 3rd. And then we are tied for 4th. We have the 4th most first round draft picks on our roster. Now, why did that happen? All right, how does that happen? It happens because you traded Matthew Stafford. That's how. And we got those extra first round picks. It happened because Brad Holmes moved up into the 1st round. So what I would have liked to have seen is, Brad get rid of a lot of the 5th and 6th and 7th round draft picks throughout some of these seasons and move up, right? Get up closer into the draft, to that 1st round as far up as you can. If that's 3rd round, it's 3rd round. And yeah, maybe you're going to reach for some guys, but it is what it is if you find the right football players. I still don't know how Ahmed Hassanin slipped to the 6th round. All right, now I want to look at the rest of the NFC North for a brief moment. the Bears. They have 7 first-rounders, 11 seconds, 10 thirds. Then it goes 7, 9, 4, and 6. So they're really light, in the 6th and 7th round. Only 8 priority UDFAs and 29. They are 47 and 44. So Tracy and everybody else that's been watching this channel for a long time, what can't you do and build a good football team at the same time? You guys know the answer. What can't you do? What is Ryan Poles doing? When you look at these numbers, when you look at these teams that are at the bottom, the Commanders being at the bottom, man, I think they had a really lucky first year. I do. Especially when you look at they're at the bottom of this spreadsheet for having homegrown players versus external players. Now, they had to, right? They're in the first year of a transition. They're in the first year of rebuilding that team. And this is what it looks like. I'm going to try to find this sheet if it existed back in 2021. And yeah, we're probably a little bit flip-flopped. We're probably closer to the bottom. So, yeah, Trey says it right there. You can't buy a team and be successful. And that's exactly what the Bears are doing. Now, the Commanders had to do it, but the difference is they had Dan Quinn, right? The difference is they actually have good ownership now, and they're doing things the right way. So can you do it and be successful? Yes. But for whatever reason, the Bears have just never been able to do it. And that they're continuing the same trend. The Cardinals, they haven't been successful in a while. The Falcons haven't been successful in a while. The Steelers, they've just been a perennial playoff team, but have they really been great? Probably not. At least the last 10 years, they just haven't been great. They've been good. And yeah, if you want to put butts in seats and, you want to sell tickets, you want to raise ticket prices, you want to sell a lot of popcorn, you're going to do what the Steelers do. If you just want to, get into the postseason 10 times in a row and not win the Super Bowl, do what the Steelers do. If you want to win, do what the Lions do, because they're closer to winning a Super Bowl than the Steelers have been. I don't even know when the last time the Steelers have won, but they are dead nuts 50-50. They're the only team that is 50-50. Let's look at the Packers. So they're a little bit better than the Lions right now. They are 60 and 30. And see, and that's probably where I would expect good teams to be, 60-30, or even, in 60 and 30, I mean 60 guys, homegrown, 30 guys external. The percentage is 66.7 and 33.3. I think that's a good mix. I think 75 and 25 is probably better. But let's look at the teams that are up at the top. Are they winners? Well, the Jags have held on to quite a few players that probably just need to go. The Rams, good team. The Chiefs, good team. The Ravens, good team. The Bucs, a good team. Jags, not so much. I think that it's been coaching. It's been the leadership. I don't trust their quarterback. Their defensive coordinators. I mean, they've just had a lot of problems. But they have a good mix of internal guys, but maybe they're just not the right guys. The Colts, I think that they're on the cusp of doing pretty good things. Big shout out last night to Hallie Burton. Man, that was awful to watch when he went down last night. But Indiana, they've got a good mix of sports right now. The Bills, they've been perennial winners now for the last few seasons. The Bengals, they're a pretty good football team when they're healthy. The Packers, they haven't been a great football team in a long time. I think that they've just been one of those teams that just kind of wins football games, definitely at home, but they seem to just win football games. And there's reasons for it, but I think a big part of it is building your roster from the inside, right? Inside out. Some of these other teams that are at the top of this list, some of them are newer, some of them are going through transitions, and some of this stuff is going to filter out. But anyway, I think the Jets, I think Aaron Glenn has a good mix right now, and I expect that mix is going to get even better. Lions are in the bottom third of this list, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that we're still building, but I think our roster is probably one of the better rosters out there when you look at who we have talent-wise from top to bottom. We've got guys that are just making big plays, and let's take a look at that roster for just a moment. who are we going to be kicking off camp with? So let me roll. Let's roll into this roster and kind of look at homegrown, internal versus external. I don't know why the Lions still have Frank Ragnow listed on their roster. You could never, if the Lions could do one thing a lot better, they need to get a lot better at taking care of their roster and everything on their website. They are so late on everything, it's not even funny. Like, not even fun. I can't even trust it half the time because it's so late. Get it together, Lions. Get it together. I shouldn't have to go to ESPN. And you're going to have to forgive me if there's some names that are wrong because I'm not the one putting it together. And I can't remember all 90 or 91 guys. Well, that didn't fit in there, did it? All right, here we go. Detroit Lions roster, that says 2024. Why does that say 24? What's going on here? Come on, people. Here, we'll just look it up together. Man, none of these sites like to jive together. I always gotta fix something. All right, we'll roll with this one, NFL.com. We'll see if it's, accurate. All right, let me see if I can whittle this down by position. Okay, we got Tristan Colon in at center. Kingsley Agukan at center. Graham Glasgow at center. He should be our starting center. So out of all of these, none of them are homegrown, right? Did we draft Kingsley? I think he was a UDFA maybe. So he might be the only homegrown guy that we have right there. Terrion Arnold is homegrown. Brian Branch is homegrown. We know Avonte Maddox is not. Ennis Rakestraw is homegrown. DJ Reed is not. Amik Robertson is not. Stanley Thomas Oliver. I think that did we not draft him? Maybe not. Was he not a UDFA? Wish there was one more line on this that would tell me if he was drafted or not as a UDFA. So I can't remember. So Kevin Bart, whoa. Yeah, we did bring in Glasgow, but not on this current roster. So we brought him in, then he left, and then he came back. So I don't think he's really considered homegrown at this point. Devod Wilson, obviously not homegrown. Rocky Sin, not homegrown. Khalil Dorsey is. Pretty sure we brought him in as UDFA. Am I mistaken there? Hold on. I got to verify a couple of these first. Memories for crap. And you guys correct me in the chat if you know the answer. All right, Stanley Thomas Oliver was drafted by the Panthers. I think it was a 7th round pick, so we didn't bring him in. I thought we did. I guess we didn't. And Khalil Dorsey, I'm pretty sure we did. Maybe we didn't. It's good exercise, man. Get my brain working. He was not drafted, but he signed with the Baltimore Ravens as a UDFA, and then he went to the Giants, and then he ended up with the Lions in 2022. So he's not homegrown either. Ian Kelly, well, we know that name. He is definitely Detroit Lions homegrown right now. Grand Valley State, trying to see. I don't think that he might have been a UDFA. Does he also play baseball? Well, anyway. Next guy. Morris Norris. Who knows the answer on Morris Norris? He was an undrafted free agent out of Fresno State. Yeah, I like the rockiest sin, man. That I love that name too. Yeah, so Morris Norris, 2024 by the Lions. Keith Cooper. He's a rookie defensive end. He's one that I've heard might be making some waves in camp. Name to look out for this year. So he was a tryout invitation for the Detroit Lions and then ended up sticking around. So he's homegrown right now. Marcus Davenport we know is not. Ahmed Hassanin is definitely homegrown. Aiden Hutchinson homegrown. What about Nate Lynn? So this is his second year out of William and Mary. I'm pretty sure that the Lions brought him in. So, let's see. Brought in 2024. He has one accrued season so far. He was a UDFA to the Lions, so he's homegrown. Some of these guys I just can't remember. Pat O'Connor we know is not. Josh Pascal is homegrown. DJ Reader is not. Isaac Ukwu is homegrown. Miles Adams is not. Roy Lopez is not. Oh, Brodric Martin, he's homegrown. Lee McNeil's homegrown. Al-Qudi Muhammad is not. Levi O is. What about Chris Smith out of Notre Dame? Pretty sure he's homegrown. Raekwon Williams. I'm surprised that we have Raekwon Williams in the house. I kind of liked his ability. I'm wondering what's going to happen with him this season, if he's really going to have a shot. I mean, we are down on this defensive tackle squad. Maybe he wants to stick around on the practice squad. I mean, we'll see what happens, but he played with the Spartans 26-19, and he was one of 3 players that was in a tryout this year in mini camp, and the Lions stuck him around. So he's not homegrown from the basis that we didn't draft him, right? If we didn't draft him or if we didn't sign him as a UDFA, they're not homegrown. Tyleik Williams, obviously he is homegrown. Mekhi Wingo is. Miles Frazier is. Christian Mahogany is. Love the glasses, Christian. That's sweet. Netnati Moody, do not believe he is. Or Netane, I don't know why I always butcher his name. So he was first with the Broncos in 2020, then with the Raiders, and then with the Detroit Lions since last year. Michael Neese, pretty sure he was homegrown. Tate Ratledge is. Colby Sorsdahl is. Zach Cunningham is not. Jake Bates definitely is. Mitchell Lagood is. Derek Barnes is also homegrown. Jack Campbell. How about Deron Gilbert? He was a UDFA signing last year and pretty positive. Trevor Nowaski, man, didn't we bring him in and then he got poached away? And then we brought him back. So this is a guy that was signed by the Detroit Lions in 2023. Then the Arizona Cardinals poached him, and then we got him back. So let's hope that we don't give him away again. Anthony Pittman. Anthony Pittman, I believe, is also homegrown. He was signed by the Lions in 2019 and then was stolen away from us, or he left, actually, went to the Commanders in 24, little stint with the Jaguars in 24, and now back to the Lions. You can consider that to be homegrown. Malcolm Rodriguez is, Grant Stewart is not, Ezekiel Turner is not, Hogan Hatton is, I believe. I had a dog named Hogan. After the show Lassie. You guys remember that show Lassie? Make it go way back. Let's see. He was brought in by the Lions in 2024. Alex Anzalone is definitely not. Giovanni Manu is. Ewo Sika is. Taylor Decker is. Jamarco Jones is not. Mason Miller is. Be interesting to see what happens with Mason this year, man. I've got high hopes for this guy. Penei Sewell's homegrown. Dan Skipper. Where did Dan Skipper start his career? This is testing everybody's mental today. Man, has he always been a Lion? No, he was a Dallas Cowboy in 2017. And then the Lions brought him in 2017. Then he went to the Broncos, then the Patriots, then the Texans. Back to the Lions in 2019, then out to the Las Vegas Raiders in 21, then back to Detroit in 21, and then Indianapolis Colts in 23, and then he finally made the roster and has been around since 2023. So, man, Dan, the traveling man, I guess. What about Jack Fox? Is Jack Fox homegrown? Let's find out. Nope, originally with Kansas City Chiefs. Thankfully, they screwed up on that one. And then ended up with the Detroit Lions. Kyle Allen is definitely not. Jared Goff is not. Hendon Hooker is. Jahmyr Gibbs is. David Montgomery is not. Craig Reynolds is. Kai Robichaud is. Anthony Tyus is. Sione Vaki. Eric Hallett. Dan Jackson. Kirby Joseph. Lauren Strickland. Luke Deal. Zach Horton, Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, all homegrown. Shane Zielstra, I believe, is homegrown. I think he was a UDFA. Ronnie Bell is, I believe he's homegrown, or did he start somewhere else? Played at Michigan and then picked up by the Lions. So he was not homegrown, as he was a San Francisco 49er to start his career. Tom Kennedy is homegrown. Dominic Lovett is. Jackson Meek is. Tim Patrick is not. So it's just kind of interesting going through this list, looking at the guys that we brought in. Obviously, Jamison Williams, Isaac Tesla, Amon-Ra St. Brown, all homegrown. Khalif Raymond was not homegrown. Tim Patrick was not homegrown. It's kind of interesting, right? To see where these guys have started and where they are now. So a little bit of a different show today, kind of just going through, I guess, a lot of things that maybe not everybody else goes through. Some things that we don't touch on a whole lot. Maybe we lose sight of some of these things. And it's just interesting to see where this team has come from. So when you go back to that list, where the Lions are, where they are as far as homegrown or not homegrown, how much of that really makes a difference? How many of these players that have stuck around, but how well Brad and Dan have drafted and how incredible they've been at finding guys in the UDFA market, especially in the priority, UDFA market, I think it's a daunting task, right? To be able to trust in yourself to bring these guys in. I mean, it's always part of the process. But the Lions having the tied for first, I believe. Here, we'll look one more time. Tied for first on the homegrown versus non-homegrown. Oh boy. Let's fix that real quick. One of these days, I will figure out a way to be able to go from sheet to sheet. I used to be able to do it on some of the other programs, but not OBS. Everything's got to be independent. I guess I could have just saved it as an image. All right, so there you go. Detroit Lions, almost there. Okay, Detroit Lions kind of right there in the middle. Oh, I guess we can't see the right side. 56 to 44%. Or 59.8 to 40.2%. 55 players the Lions have drafted or brought in through UDFAs or tryouts. 37 players the Lions brought in via waivers, free agency, post 53-man cuts. You name it, that's how they've done it. And I think that is a very good reason as to why the Detroit Lions are successful. I think that they're highly successful because they have adopted a way of doing things that largely has been how teams have won football games. Largely is how teams have been able to be successful. There's a lot longer history, I think, in the NFL that proves this point. You know, that when you flush out how teams can remain successful, how they can continue to build, whether it's a dynasty or sustained success, this is the first step. Making sure that you have guys in-house that you start with, guys that end up being leaders on this team, that end up being pretty good football players. And that's exactly what the Lions have done. They've built a really solid group of guys to help lead this team. All right, next up, we're going to get to a funny video here. And former Detroit Lion running back finds himself in a little bit of trouble. I don't think he was arrested. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think he was arrested. But Adrian Peterson, man, he got into a little bit of a scuffle over the weekend. And it was at some poker tournament. And what he said afterwards, we'll kind of go through and why it happened. And I got to tell you, I think, from my view, I think that Peterson lost this battle. I seen this guy. I mean, he definitely got a couple of licks on Peterson. His legs looked a little bit shaky. So I think he touched the lights there for a moment. Maybe he was seeing a few stars. Let me bring it in. It's kind of hilarious. Here we go. Adrian Peterson. A poker punch out. That's him on the left. And then this guy on the right. He touches Peterson a couple of times, man. It's going to be this one. I'll tell you when. Right here, right? Bang. And then another one, and then he landed another one, and then Peterson's legs got shaky. Right here up against the wall, Peterson eats quite a few. Bang, bang. Yeah, not a good look for Mr. Peterson. But let's dig into why this happened. What was the statement over the weekend by Peterson? And so Peterson said that he and one of his buddies were involved in a disagreement while at a gambling table. Quote, one thing led to another, and then they kind of squared up. Obviously, the video kind of showed that they were trading blows there. I don't know how many that Peterson actually landed. Didn't Peterson do a boxing match not too long ago? Like a celebrity boxing match? So Peterson obviously took a flurry of punches, which you could see in that video. His face was kind of bloodied up after the fact. I mean, both guys suffered some injuries to their face. Peterson went ahead and said that the injuries that he had suffered were not from the fight. So was it the poker table? The poker card. I mean, what else would have done it there, Adrian?
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure?
I'm not so sure that those punches didn't take effect on him. So here's what he said, though. He said, me and the guy, we were cool. We've known each other. It was literally like a brother situation. We agreed to disagree. We had our words. We threw some blows, and that was it. So maybe they're friends today. Maybe they hugged it out afterwards. I don't know. But it just never fails, man. People can't keep to their own business. I guess, because we can't hear either, man. We like to see all the gushy details. Yeah, Kevin Barr says he had a celebrity match and he got whooped. I thought he did, but I didn't watch it. Who's in the chat this morning? Mr. Maudi's in the chat. Good morning. Who's calling me today? Okay, let me get into my sheet here. I do got to get off early today. I know I have some doctor's appointments today. Jahmyr Gibbs bet. So Jahmyr Gibbs just revealed that his bet with Amon-Ra St. Brown is valid and the prize is wild. So obviously during, the lull of this offseason, we just find some things, some content to talk about. We'll rehash this one a little bit. So Gibbs has told Amon-Ra St. Brown that he is going to hit 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving in one season. And if he does that, the bet with St. Brown is, well, I guess let's just go through it. He says, it's a goal, quote, I asked him about it again. He's going to get me a house. I mean, Gibbs is making great money. I saw a video, was it last week, that we saw Jahmyr Gibbs was training his dog to play dead. And I don't know if that was his apartment or wherever he was living, but Gibbs got to step it up, man. I think that he's living very frugal, though, which is very smart by Gibbs. How incredible would that be if Jahmyr Gibbs actually did 1,000 and 1,000? I don't think it's ever been done. But that would also say that they're going to have to put Jahmyr Gibbs into this offense like never before. Like, he's going to have to get targeted at least 3-4 times a game in the passing game, and a couple of them have to be downfield. Look, Gibbs is electric. I'm not denying the man, but that is a feat. I don't know if it can be done. I really don't know if that can be done. He'd almost have to have just as many attempts as I think in the passing game as the rushing game, to be honest with you. It seems like he's only been getting 10 touches a game. Michael Garrity says, Gibbs' dog is a rescue. It's a really nice story. Yeah, maybe I'll find that video and we'll go through that. What are we talking about? Dan's travels? What did I miss? Dan Miller. Gotcha. All right, so Jahmyr Gibbs in OTAs. The plans for Jahmyr Gibbs in OTAs was kind of spelled out for us. So, according to Tim Twentyman, Gibbs is being heavily challenged in OTAs by Detroit Lions running backs coach Tashard Choice. Choice told Twentyman that Gibbs will be pushed by him because he simply has no other choice than to see how much higher the running back can reach. The quote was, for him, the sky's the limit. I'm going to push him. I'm going to push him like no other. I have to. Having the chance to watch Gibbs from afar for the last 3 years and every single week because of the Lions defensive coordinator and close friend Kelvin Shepard, and because of Ja, I kept wanting to watch Lions games, said Choice. It's kind of funny that Tashard Choice and Kelvin Shepard have such a good relationship, off the field, good friends off the field. So Tashard Choice also said that to see him progress and to see how smart he is, I tell him that he's one of the smartest running backs that he's ever coached. He's just a natural football player. So having an opportunity to get around him now, coaching, I'm going to be harder on him even more. So OTA's early for Gibbs. I think that we're starting to realize there's more for this kid, right? I think that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to end up being one of the best backs ever to play in the NFL. That's just my long tail goal for him. I mean, I see it. I mean, I can see that he has a ton of opportunity within this league. He's got to get fed the football. I don't know if he's ever going to get fed more than 50% of the snaps, at least until, the Lions make a decision at some point. If they keep, Montgomery around, or if they add another Montgomery somehow, are they going to maintain, this balanced offense or this balanced rushing attack? It'd be interesting to see if he begins to get more of the lion's share, so to speak, of the snaps. What will that do to his stat lines? And will he be able to handle it? So far, it looks like everything that Gibbs has done has been easy. It just looks too easy for him. And he's really not taken, a bunch of big blows yet. Not to say that he hasn't been hit hard, but I mean, he is just one of the hardest runners that I've seen in a long time. And he just looks so graceful when he's doing it. It looks easy for him. So challenging him even more, I think, is a good thing for Tashard Choice to do and see how much better he can get. And then speaking of the relationship between Tashard Choice and Kelvin Shepard, let's touch on Shepard for just a moment. So what does he have to do? What is one major question, I guess, that comes to mind, about the Lions having a new defensive coordinator? And what is going to change for them this year? I think the answer is nothing. I think what will change is, I've said this before, Kelvin Shepard has probably seen what they can do with this defense and what not to do with this defense. If this defense is healthy, I think that they can be one of the best defenses in the league. Starting the season, the Lions are not going to be healthy. Aiden Hutchinson appears to be healthy, but what is it going to look like week one when he finally straps it up? Is he going to have any ghosts in the back of his head? Is he going to be worried about, running around the side, getting leverage on the outside and attacking the quarterback? How is he going to manage not swinging his legs? I think that is going to be in the back of his mind. It's kind of been one of his traits, I guess, as a defensive end. He would always kind of fly into the backfield, launch himself at the quarterback at an angle. He's like at a 35-degree angle when he's going after because he's bending so much, right? He's bending and then he launches. Is he going to change that? And if he changes that, how much is that going to change his ability to get to the quarterback? If there's one thing that I've seen about Aiden, or at least that I've evaluated on Aiden, is that he can't disengage all the time from tackles. So he uses a unique style of press, if you will, like how he presses the tackle, or tries to use his hands a little bit more. I think is going to be effective this year. He has to use his hands a lot more. He can't get caught up inside these tackles. And I think utilizing that wide leverage bend has kind of been one of his signature moves to avoid and evade the tackles. And so now, is he going to do that? Is he going to remove that from his repertoire of pass rushing moves? I guess is the question. Excuse me. Gunner says yes. He's looking at me like, yes, Dad. He's going to do that. He's going to be just fine. All right, so can he fill the big shoes? That's the big question for Kelvin Shepard. He has big shoes to fill. I know a lot of you didn't trust or believe in Aaron Glenn. I did. I saw the master class of what he was building in that defense and how the defense was able to do a lot of different things that we haven't seen in the past and didn't expect with the type of players that we had. Let's just be honest. We haven't had as many elite players on defense as we have had on offense the last few seasons. I think last year we finally started to see just how good that defensive backfield could be. And now that we have two of the best safeties in the league, or the two best safeties in the league, I think that gives Kelvin some options and how he's going to be able to utilize his front four in a different way. So while Detroit is starting over on offense with John Morton, who he was here back in 21, and utilizing an external replacement for Ben Johnson, the team obviously had a succession plan in place with Kelvin Shepard for Aaron Glenn. And losing Aaron Glenn was big, right? I think that there's a lot that a lot of Lions fans didn't respect about Aaron Glenn. And what I mean by that is I think that they didn't understand Aaron Glenn. You know, far too often you see, you know, Aaron Glenn needed to go, fire Aaron Glenn on the hot seat. I never believed in it. And I never believed in it, just like I didn't believe that Jared Goff was a bridge. It's because of what I was able to deduce from what Aaron Glenn could do with this team, how unique he was at, you know, calling plays. Yes, he was stubborn at times, but I think he got way more out of that defense than any other defensive coordinator was going to get out of that team. We just didn't have the pieces to be able to do the things that we were doing, but somehow we were doing it. And Kelvin Shepard has those big steps or big shoes to fill. He's been a linebackers coach since 2021, and now he steps into this role of the play caller and the defensive maestro, if you will. I honestly feel like this is going to be a very fluid change for Kelvin Shepard. I think it's going to be just easy peasy for him to roll right into the defensive coordinator position. I mean, nothing's easy, right? He's going to have some difficulty at times. He's going to get, you know, stressed out and pressured at times. He's going to see some things from the offensive side of the football that maybe are going to catch him off guard, and hopefully that happens during, you know, training camp. But he's been there, done it, man. He has been doing this alongside of Aaron Glenn every single season in Detroit, and I think that, you know, he shares in the same philosophies as Aaron Glenn. I think he possesses a good understanding of the defense. And look, I don't think that he's not going to have growing pains. I think that he will have some growing pains. But I think that this is going to be a very interesting move for the Lions that I think is going to pay off. The hope is that we don't lose him. And I just don't see that happening right away. Maybe, you know, 3-4 seasons down the line, if Shepard's having really good success, we could lose him again, right? We could lose these guys. Is Kelvin, you know, the head coach type mentality? He could be. We don't know. We're going to see this year. You know, Dan Campbell always said that he's really sharp. He's just a really sharp person, really sharp coach, gets the best out of his players. And I think that we've seen that with this linebacker core that was just, you had one or good football players, you know, not six, right? You had Alex Anzalone, then you have Jack Campbell as a rookie. Those are the two best linebackers we've had since 2021. Derek Barnes started to step into it a little bit, but I haven't seen enough to say that he's a really good football player yet. Hopefully we'll see that this season. Now, in 2015, when Dan Campbell was the interim head coach of the Dolphins, he would often sit in his office and talk ball and life with any player who would walk in that day. So kind of transitioning here into what Dan Campbell saw for Kelvin Shepard. This was a piece written by Colton Pouncey back in May of this year. And he went on to say it was an open door policy. It broke down the barriers between the players and the coach, and this endeared Campbell to many in Miami. Kelvin Shepard was one of his most frequent visitors back then. It's like he had a frequent Flyers pass. And he was a very cerebral linebacker who had to rely on his mind over his 8-year career. I'm not sure what that means by Colton Pouncey, but those visits helped confirm what Dan Campbell already suspected, and that was that Shepard was destined to coach one day. And we've heard this, you know, a few times. Dan Campbell gave Kelvin Shepard his first on-field coaching opportunity in 2021. Now, over the years, he put more and more on Shepard's plate, quietly preparing him for where he is now. A decade after those open-door conversations started between Dan Campbell and Kelvin Shepard in Miami, Shepard is now one of Campbell's most trusted assistants, entering his first season as a defensive coordinator. Dan Campbell said this: "I've always believed that Shep could be an outstanding coach. About 2 years ago, I just felt like, man, this guy will be ready to be a coordinator sooner rather than later. That this is the next step, that without telling him, nothing was ever promised. But I felt really good about that, like he's ready. He's really, really ready." Now, evaluating the linebackers coach or elevating the linebackers coach to defensive coordinator, it seems like a no-brainer, right? The quarterback of the defense is your Mike linebacker. the quarterback of the defense outside of your defensive coordinator is the linebackers coach. They have to see everything. So Shepard fills the shoes if he does. Whatever was left behind by Aaron Glenn, whatever was instilled in Kelvin Shepard by Aaron Glenn, I think will shine by day one. There's pressure for Shepard to succeed without a doubt early. This team is going up against some of the best teams in the NFL. I mean, the first 3 weeks are a very daunting task, and they're going to have their together. Shepard cannot relax at all. I just hope that he doesn't make the mistake of putting too much pressure on himself, which puts too much pressure on the defense. Don't install too much, install just enough, right? Don't install too much, install just enough. He's replacing a very well-respected coordinator in Aaron Glenn, who's now the head coach of the Jets. And he was one of the league's best. He's inheriting, a bevy of quality players, I think, at each level now. And that's the difference between Aaron Glenn-led defense and what is a Kelvin Shepard-led defense. Aaron Glenn, in my opinion, he had to kind of mold and retask some of these guys from 2021 to 2024. He kind of had to rebuild this defense, identify the guys that could play, instill in them the confidence that they could do it. But he started with a trash heap in 2021. That first draft gave him a couple of pieces. The second draft gave him a couple of pieces. Went through a lot of injuries with our defensive tackles that we took early. So Aaron Glenn was kind of up against it from day one. That's not going to really be the answer or the assignment for Kelvin Shepard. I think that Kelvin is starting from a much better position. We didn't have a defensive backfield in 2021. We started to build one in 2022 and really started to build one in 2024. So I think that what Kelvin has inherited is far and away better than what Aaron Glenn started with. So the difference for me here is, Aaron Glenn's kind of like that older, wiser, teacher, if you will. Kelvin is the student of that teacher. And I think Kelvin's going to end up with a better plate after all. I think that Kelvin is going to be able to bring this defense to newer heights simply because he's inheriting a lot more. He doesn't have to do what Aaron Glenn did. He doesn't have to reshape, reform, and instill in this team that they can do it. They know that they can do it. And they're bringing back the same players that did it last year. He just has to keep that engine going. He just has to keep it fed with fuel. And I think that Kelvin Shepard's going to be just fine. So I guess the big answer or the big question, and the answer is yes, but the big question is, can Kelvin Shepard fill the shoes of Aaron Glenn? And definitively, I'm going to say yes, he can. And I think it's because it's two totally different mindsets. It's two totally different ways of teaching. It's two totally different defenses. You started with nothing. You finished with a lot, Aaron Glenn. Now Aaron Glenn is handing all of that off to Kelvin Shepard, who they just added even more pieces to his plate by bringing in Tyleik Williams. The only caveat to this is, one of the defense's biggest leaders in Aleem McNeil and best players won't be able to start the season. But DJ Reader will be entering his second season with the Lions. He'll also be healthy, fully healthy for once. And in his second season, this is his only season that he's going to start healthy. So I think that is a big help. Terry and Arnold not having to start with a rookie corner is huge. Giving Kelvin Shepard a corner in DJ Reed, who's been one of the best, over the last many seasons, is huge. And Alex Anzalone. Look, something has to get done with this. I can't see how Kelvin doesn't want Alex. I'm pretty sure that he needs Alex on this team to help him kind of be that quarterback of the defense once again to get it going. But I'm not going to be worried about it. I think that we have enough, solid players, smart football players, that Kelvin Shepard's going to be just fine with what he has. So I'd love to know in the comments below, how do you feel Kelvin Shepard is going to do in his first season? Do you see, a guy that could just kind of take the reins and run with it? Is he going to have some some hiccups? Is he going to stumble a little bit out of the gates? Or is he going to just knock it out of the park? I think he's going to have some issues at some point throughout the season, like all teams and all defenses do. But I think largely, I think he's going to succeed. I think it's going to be a really, really good first season for Kelvin Shepard. And yes, to your point, Kevin, Anzalone is still under contract. It's just whether or not he shows up for training camp, if we believe in all of the rumors about the contract situation. Only time will tell, right? We're just a few short weeks away from training camp, and if he shows up, he shows up. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I guess the Lions are going to have to worry about that at that point. Michael Garrity says top 5 defense this year. I'm on that same boat, man. We row in the same way. I think it's going to be a top 5 defense too. All right, it's 9:30 in the morning. Appreciate you guys all being with Rise or Grind Morning Show today. And do me a huge favor if we could get the likes up. Looks like we're at 55. I'm going to turn ads off for the rest of the show. I know I've got a jet here in a little bit, but what else is on my sheet for the day? We went over roster development, Gibbs, punch out, most important tasks for the defense. Okay, so following up with Kelvin Shepard and the defense. So what are the most important tasks for the defense this year? And I would say quite a few. Quite a few tasks, right? What are the most important tasks? So you're starting the season with, new defensive line coach, Casey Rogers, and his number one task is obviously Tyleik Williams. Getting Tyleik, and I agree with this, right? This article, again, that I gleaned was, again, written by Colton Pouncey just a couple of days ago. And I think it's a good jump-off point for Kelvin Shepard to kind of take a look at, what are the most important levels to this game. Well, the first level is your rookies and making sure that the guy that you see as someone that can come in and fill in for Lee McNeil and get this defense started off on the right foot. Tyleik's probably going to get attacked early, right? They're going to throw some stuff at him early. Not only the Lions, but the opposing offenses when we get into week 1. But the written part of this by Colton Pouncey says that it's hard to go with anyone but Williams for this one. The Lions surprised many in draft circles when they selected him 28th overall. I wasn't surprised. He was my pick. But he's a strong fit on a number of levels. Holmes likens him to a younger Lee McNeil. I see it now. The more that I've watched about Tyleik Williams, the more that I've seen him interact, I see the same thing, what they're talking about. The difference is he's 328 pounds, whereas Lee McNeil at 305, sometimes 295, a little bit different of mobility, you would think, but Tyleik Williams might move better than Lee McNeil does. And as he gets, ingrained into this program with the Lions, wait till you see what he looks like in year 2. I think that Tyleik Williams is going to obviously make a huge jump, but the minute that body gets toned up and he sheds some pounds and he's in a professional, situation with training, this guy is, he's already went from 370 pounds, 370 down to 328. Imagine what he can do by going from 328 down to 315. Just another 13 pounds. I think he's going to be electric off that defensive line. So he's one of Campbell's nicknames for McNeil is Twinkle Toes. I always like the Dancing Bear, but it would be just as easy of a fit for Williams to be able to do the same thing. One of the attributes to Tyleik Williams is how nimble he is on his feet, how quick his feet are, and the fact that he can get into the backfield. He's highly instinctual on the field. He's also a film junkie off of it, which is critical to any defensive tackle's game. Any player's game is watching film. It translates to his game, which is a big thing. So when he finds those nuances, the deficiencies, that you have on the offense, how can he take advantage of it? What do you do? Whoever he's going up against, the guards and the tackles that he's going to be pinned up against in week 1, 2, 3, what are they doing that he can take advantage of? I think is what Tyleik Williams is going to be looking for. He also just has this very cool, calm demeanor, easygoing type of personality that you don't expect from a football player, but it's that switch, right? You switch it on when you put the helmet on, and they can switch it off when they're leaving the field. I think that is a very good trait to have. A quote here by Brad Holmes says, I do think that he's got a lot of versatility in his game. He has the physical skill set. He's got the power. He's got the bend and the agility. He's a very nimble athlete. But the thing about it is that he's incredibly instinctive too. He has a lot of similar traits to Aleem McNeil. Now, McNeil's development is probably one of the greatest success stories of this regime, of Brad and Dan. How, they got Williams, in this new role, right? They got Williams on this team, but watching what they did with McNeil and what they should be able to do with Williams, it should be the exact same, if not any better. It should be better, but not only because the Lions spent a first-round draft pick on him, but also because of their 2026 outlook and how this roster kind of starts to mold and take shape with some of these big contracts that are coming our way. Now, were the Lions lucky to retain Onwuzurike after the year that he just had? 45 pressures, 12.5 pass rush win rate, both top 15 among qualified defensive tackles. I get sick of hearing that we don't get pressure. We, don't have a pass rush. And the most important thing is pressure, right? Forget sacks. Forget them. The most important thing is pressure. And the fact that we were third in pressure rate last season, third, that means there was only two teams better than the Lions. And we did that with third and fourth string guys along the defensive line, in the linebacker room, in the cornerback room, and then, on the 6th and 7th and 8th defensive ends. How were we able to do that? The depth, right? The same guys that we just brought back. So I get real sick of hearing no pass rush, and I just don't understand where these people even have a mic or have a voice or a pen, right, to voice this, because they're clearly not seeing the same thing that everybody else is. At least the people that can see what's really going on with this team. I saw it from day one of training camp last year, and I felt that this was going to be the best defense that we've ever witnessed in Detroit. And it could have been. It almost was. But now I'm thinking it's probably going to be next year when we really see the best defense ever. This year, I think that we're going to have a highly competitive defense. Yeah, we could be top 5, and I'm not saying that that's not the best ever for this team, but I think a top 5 this year is going to be much different next year. I think what they're going to be able to do next year is going to be off the charts good, especially with how healthy, they should be, assuming that we don't suffer a bunch of injuries, which I'm not expecting, right? By the way, you guys can't hear the AC running, can you? You shouldn't, but. Yeah, Maureen says a lot of people have forgotten that the Lions are winning with third and fourth string guys. Or they are simply choosing to ignore the fact for whatever reason. Yeah, I hope you guys are all staying cool, man. It has been a blistering heat wave. Matter of fact, I've got the lawn watering, which I'm not supposed to be doing right now. It's still going, but it is what it is. The next house is going to have underground sprinkling, the one thing that you never realize that you really need until you don't have it. I hate moving the sprinkler around. I don't know about you, but I can't stand it. But I've dialed it in. And when you live out in the middle of nowhere and you're on a well, which is not a bad thing, it just, you don't have the same pressure as the city water. So it just takes a little bit, but yeah, got to have underground sprinkling. Just the same way the Lions need to have some guys that are coming from underground, right? We got these guys that just need to expand, and I think that is Brodric Martin, and that's where I'm going to finish this show today. I think that Brodric Martin has a ton of upside still. I do. I think that, for a third-round draft pick that essentially was a fourth-round draft pick, where he was selected, number one. And number two, I think that, Bro Martin's had a tough road. He was parked behind a couple of guys in his first year. The Lions were expecting, Levi Onwuzurike and Josh Paschal to be the leaders of that defensive tackle room with Alim McNeill in 2023. And then Bromart really started to look good last year in preseason. And then he tears up his knee. And I read something earlier. I wonder if I still have it. But I read something earlier when they were talking about Brodric Martin. Here it is right here, actually. So this, Colton, I get he doesn't like Brodric Martin. He says this. He gave Brodric an honorable mention by saying that you could argue that Martin is a more challenging developmental assignment than Williams. But Williams, to me, is more important. That said, both Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have discussed wanting to see more from Martin this season. Well, of course they do. But he essentially redshirted as a rookie. And this is what I didn't appreciate about this article, and I'll explain why. He says, even when he returned from injured reserve in his second season, the Lions were playing defensive tackles that they signed off of various practice squads over Martin when they needed bodies. Martin has size and length you like out of the nose tackle position, but plays far too high. Okay. Why was Martin getting played or not played? Right? That's the question. I think it's pretty simple. He had an injured knee. And yes, even though he came back off of injured reserve, doesn't necessarily mean that he was fully ready to go. Doesn't necessarily mean that the Lions had a big plan for him this year to get a ton of snaps. They did not expect Alim McNeill to go down, right? And DJ Reader be your only guy. But DJ Reader is the nose tackle. Brodric Martin is a nose tackle. It's not like we were playing different nose tackles over Brodric Martin. I think you have to look at that part of this equation here. Yeah, Brodric probably wasn't fully ready, probably was never fully healthy last year. And I don't know about his weight. I don't know what happened to his weight. But anytime a big man goes down with a knee injury, it is 10 times harder for those guys to get back because you're putting so much pressure on those, on those ligaments that, maybe a corner doesn't, right? Or a wide receiver doesn't. They don't weigh as much. But to say that, we sign guys off various practice squads, that was to take over for Alim McNeill, not Brodric Martin. Those guys were signed to take over for Alim. We needed a pass rushing style of a defensive tackle, not a nose tackle. That was DJ Reader's job. And then I say that you have to also look at what Aaron Glenn was doing. He was trying to get faster, right? You weren't going to put in a 340-pound nose tackle that is not anywhere near as quick as DJ Reader off the line when you're trying to get faster. He was trying to manufacture as much pressure as he could. But to that end, I'm not going to give Brodric Martin a pass either. He's had a very rough go for the first couple of seasons. However, I never really expected much out of what essentially is a early fourth-round draft pick. We didn't give up a ton for the guy, and there really wasn't anybody else in the draft unless you had a magic 8 ball, which I did because the guys that I wanted, Brad didn't take, and I wish he would have. But it is what it is. Brodric Martin is only entering his third season. This is like the last year of the developmental phase. He missed this second season where he should have had a bigger, transition to the game after another full off season. But it didn't happen, late into the, preseason games where he gets injured. So we have to see more out of him. I think that he understands this is a year that he can actually make some headway. Being down Alim McNeill might have saved him on this roster for right now. But we need to see more out of Brodric Martin. I agree. I think that there's more to this guy than there's not. I think there's a lot more upside to Brodric Martin than there is not. He just has to manage his weight. And I hear what he's saying about playing far too high. His pad level isn't the greatest at times. And what I wanted to see out of Brodric last year was his leg work. I wanted to see his legs get a lot stronger, being able to anchor a lot better. His anchor is not great, but what he can do in the run game is great. And I think that he's demonstrated that at times that he can be beneficial in the run game. So I'm really hoping to see Brodric Martin get his legs in shape this year. Lastly, I guess I'll throw a couple more things in here. Linebacker Jack Campbell, talking about Sean Dion Hamilton, the linebackers coach. We highlighted him last week. But getting Campbell, as a rookie, spent a lot of time at the Sam linebacker spot. I don't know who commented in one of my videos. I think it was about the Jack Campbell video that I did, trying to say it was two totally different positions of Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone. It's really not. It's really not, because Alex came to this team to be the Mike when we didn't have one. But he's always been a Sam. And the Lions transitioned Campbell to be a Sam in year 1, left Anzalone as the Mike, and then in year 2 last year, flip-flopped those spots, put Jack Campbell in as the Mike. Anzalone was still making the calls, and Anzalone was out at Sam. So they're getting these guys cross-trained, right? So whoever commented, that it's two totally different positions, again, it really wasn't, because as this states too, as a rookie in 23, Campbell spent time at Sam linebacker, playing out of position before settling in at the Mike position late in that year, and then staying there in 2024. It led to a breakout season. Campbell recorded 131 tackles, was better in coverage in his second season, and was always around the football. If you're into PFF grades, Campbell ranked 9th among qualified linebackers in coverage and 10th overall among his peers. I wish I would have found this article before I did that video, because half of the work would have been done for me. So what he's saying here is making sure that Campbell is well on his way to solidifying himself as a top 10, linebacker in this league. I felt the same way when I did the video. I felt that Jack Campbell is definitely going to be, in my opinion, a better player than Alex Anzalone. Doesn't mean it's going to happen this year, but I think that he can be a better football player than Alex Anzalone ever was. And I'm not throwing shade at Alex at all. I think Alex is a needed commodity on this team. I don't want to see him go anywhere else, but, sometimes those things just don't work out. Jack has really grown a lot, from year 1 to year 2, and I think it's going to be just stupid how good he's going to be in year 3. So, again, the question is, what are the main or important developmental tasks for the Lions defensive coaching staff this year? And it's ensuring that Jack Campbell takes even yet another big step, and I agree with that. The other part, the honorable mention that he talks about, is Trevor Nowaski. I think that Trevor Nowaski, for as good as he was the first season that we had him in spurts, last year kind of fell off, but when he was really needed, I think that he did a good job. I think he did a commendable job. We need to see him take that next step, even a bigger step than I think what Jack took between year 1 and year 2. We need Trevor Nowaski to take that step. Is he really going to be a guy that can stick around for a long time, or is he just going to be a career, perennial backup? Well, the answer is yes. We want him to be that backup, but we need him to be, a guy that can step in and really hold it down. Otherwise, I think the Lions are going to have to start looking, elsewhere, and I just don't think that that's the case right now. And then cornerback Terrion Arnold is also high on the list. No surprise, we want to see Terrion Arnold really take a leap in his second year. I'm 1,000% positive. Part of the reason is right here.
Oh, the podcast. Shout out to Rock on Detroit Lions, man. My pride.
We know that Terrion Arnold's going to take a big step. Big shout out to UTA. You're going to do it this year. I think that he's got the size, the length, the speed, the intangibles. I think he's a very smart, savvy football player. I think his football IQ is spot on. His footwork, the way he stays in phase, and we've seen it. We highlighted the video last week, watching his footwork, and I think that he's going to take that next step. The fact that he's in a backfield that is as good and deep with DJ Reed, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Ennis Rakestraw, I think needs to take that next big step too, is huge for him. He has the support to be able to take a big step in 2025. Ennis Rakestraw, they talk about the Lions planning to let their 24 second-round pick develop on the outside, I think is key. Having another guy go on the outside because we have plenty of nickels. Giving Ennis Rakestraw, a lot of opportunity out on the outside, I think is beneficial. And then I'm also hoping that the Lions can get something done with Amik Robertson. I would love to see an extension with Amik Robertson. This is his last year with the Lions, and I'm not saying that he's upset or anything, but I think it's time to get this guy locked up at least for another season. Let's throw another season on that dude's contract. Of course, it depends on how Ennis Rakestraw develops, but I don't see Ennis as a nickelback, at least not right now. So that's really it for today. We're going to end a few minutes early, and remember, tomorrow we're off. And then tomorrow night will be the first off the cuff on Tuesday nights. And then let's get into the phone calls tomorrow night. That's what Tuesday and Thursday nights are all about. I want you guys to call in. It's all about the fans. Call in. Let's talk Lions. Bring any topic that you want to talk about. I don't care what the topic is. Bring it, and we'll discuss it. If you want to join by video, just email me at mailbag@rockdown.com. We'll get you set up with a link. And you can join by video if you'd like to join the show and be part of it. So that's it for today. You guys have a wonderful day. Go One Pride, go Detroit Lions. We'll see you guys back here on Wednesday morning. Unless something breaks between now and then, I got a lot of work to do, so I'm going to go get busy outside. You guys take care.
The podcast. Shout out to Rockhound Detroit Lions, man. One Pride.